What if you're not failing in the mortgage business? You're simply in the wrong role. Today's guest, Jason Williams, and I discuss how he got into the mortgage business. And for the first 2 years, he had some success, but really struggled with, didn't like sales, and had seriously considered leaving the mortgage industry until he discovered that he could still be in the business, make six figures, and do the part of the business that he loves. If you are in the mortgage biz and maybe sales is not your jam, there's several other career paths you can end up taking to stay here. Jason's is one example. And I love this because I think the key thing that you have to realize is you've got to know yourself. I think there's this great philosophical quote that the most important thing to do is to know thyself. And it's the same thing with Jason. He's figured out what he's good at. And now that he's found his sweet spot, he's having way more success, enjoying it, and having a lot of fun. And it's a far better career for him than what he was doing previously. Hey, I'm Scott Beckford. This is the I Love Mortgage Brokering podcast. Each week, we bring you conversations, tactics, tools to help you grow your mortgage business. This week's a little different in that I'm talking to somebody who's not being a mortgage broker, even though we talk about I Love Mortgage Brokering. But there are literally dozens of parallel careers that you can take in the mortgage business. And Jason has created one for himself, which I think is great. And some of you listening are probably going to listen to this and go, wow, I want to hire somebody like Jason to help me in my mortgage business. Or you're going to think, hey, I want to do what he did. And you can absolutely do the same thing. So I think you're going to find this inspiring and what's possible. Before I jump into that, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Ownwell. Ownwell is an amazing tool for Canadian brokers. It allows them to monitor their clients' home equity and buying power on a monthly basis, creates these amazing reports that get sent out, has a very high engagement rate, but which is awesome. But even more importantly, creates conversations that you can have with your client about buying power, about refinancing, about buying investment properties. Check them out at ownwell.ca/Scott and check out this conversation with Jason. Hey, Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have a conversation with you. You had a unique path prior to the mortgage space, but also in the mortgage space, which we'll get to. But before we do that, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got in the mortgage biz.
It was a simple conversation I had with one of my neighbors who was also a mortgage agent. I was in a completely different industry before this, lots to do with construction, still an entrepreneur, but I was just getting older. My back wasn't able to handle the heavy lifting anymore. So a couple of conversations with some friends pointed me down this path and this direction. And
how long ago was that?
I would say probably 3 years ago now. Okay.
And so you initially got into it thinking, okay, I'm gonna go and become a mortgage broker. But you realize there's being a mortgage broker, there's multiple hats you wear, but there was one hat in particular you really enjoyed more than the others. And so that walk me through your journey of that, discovering that and figuring that
out. You mean to where I am now?
Yeah, where you are now. Because I think like a lot of people think, okay, be a mortgage broker, but there's actually we've got brokers that have come through our company at Bricks that are now BDMs at lenders because they realize I love this space. Maybe this particular role is not my jam, but this is. And we've had two, and just recently we've had two that have been picked up by big national lenders that are very excited about them, and they're both. It's been working out great, and so. But so that's what I mean by a different path than saying, hey, I'm going to be a mortgage broker, do your mortgage. So maybe walk me through what was what was that like? And then when did you realize that you're like, wait a second, I actually like in your case, you like the underwriting and the back office stuff more than the sales side of it?
Oh, very much so. Yeah. I think at the beginning, and I don't know if this is common to most agents, but yeah, you think huge dollar signs and lots of time off and, you think,
lots of people, they think that, and then the reality is
then you get your license and reality hits, and all of a sudden you're like,
I only have to do like 2 or 3 mortgages a month, and look how much money I can make. Right?
That's not the case at all. So that was how I saw it to begin with, and then when you get into the bones of it and really figured out what the industry was all about, I had.
So what did you discover about the industry? What did you think it was pre, and what did you realize once you were into it for a bit?
I just thought people would come to me. Like as soon as I got my license, I figured
you're like, it's like that movie. If you build it, they will come.
100%. Right. But then you realize that it is like 90% sales. And I've never really been fantastic at sales. I'm afraid of the phone, and I know you are a huge advocate of making phone calls, but I've always been.
But I'm also a bigger advocate of finding your sweet spot, regardless of where that is. And so I'm not. I may be. If you want to build the mortgage, traditional mortgage business, you do need to learn the sales piece. But don't have to do that. You don't have to do that to be in the mortgage space.
Well, and that was really the discovery was going through the whole process and learning about the industry, learning about mortgages, finding out how much of this was sales. I really figured out that I can't stand sales. Absolutely detest it. But you sit me in front of a computer, I can sit here all day long and bang files off like nobody's business. So I think that realization really showed what I.
How long were you into the business before that?
It was about
dawned on you.
It was about 2 years, and I was almost out. I was like, "This is not working. I think I need a new path." The bank account was almost empty, and it was just time to make a decision. And somebody had mentioned to me, "Well, why don't you become an assistant part time to a senior, busier broker and earn a little bit on the side? You can still work in your business, so on and so forth." So I did a bunch of research because that's what I do. I don't trust other people. I just go out and find out what I need to know on my own. And I realized that this side of the industry, there is a huge, huge calling for it, and nobody's doing it full time.
Very few people. Yeah, it's hard. Like whenever you notice, a lot of people are struggling to find someone great. And so, so then you made that realization. So then what was your first step going, okay, sales is not my jam, but I like the mortgage space. What was you did your research, then what happened?
Well, I was actually at a different brokerage when I did that. I'd left Bricks for a little bit. So I reached out to Denise and because I knew Bricks had the matchmaker program. And so I wanted to find out a lot more about that, find out if I fit, where I fit, so on and so forth. So she and I talked for probably about a month and a half before I really made the decision. And then it was pretty much downhill after that. Came back in this capacity full time. I still had my license. I was still a submitting agent, but I was really leaning towards the assistant side of things. So, and from there on out, it was basically just reaching out to various brokers. Oddly enough, I was not afraid to make phone calls in that respect. For whatever reason, right. I don't know why, but it was.
Well, it's B2B is different than B2C a little bit.
Yes.
It can't, if you believe it's different, it's different. So obviously you have a belief that is because it was easier for you, but in either way, it doesn't matter. You did.
Yeah. And
you also had something you were really interested in. So maybe part of it too, you had this, you knew the other pieces, you knew you could do it.
Yeah.
You knew, I think I can do this really well.
Yeah.
So then that also builds the confidence to pick up the phone if you have that belief.
Absolutely. So that was, and it basically just skyrocketed from there. I'm still shocked at how many people reached out to find out more about what I was offering and services and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
And then so you were able to set up a contract position with a bunch of different brokers that you work with, and you manage the underwriting. And so where do you pick up the file, and what do you do? So like if I'm a mortgage broker and I want to share this for two reasons. One, I want mortgage brokers to hear this and go, oh, there's options for me. And I want some people who are in the mortgage space that realize that maybe this is what I should copy what Jason did. So what do you do for them and where and all that stuff?
So I pick up the file at approval. So basically commitment forward, right to the finish line. So commitment to compliance. And I tried a little bit of underwriting. I just don't think I have enough experience as a broker or as an agent to be beneficial as an underwriter. But the back office side of things, I do, and it turns out I excel at it. So,
right. So you're talking about fulfillment. So then you help with
yes.
Like, do you help with document collection?
Generally, what I found is most of the brokers I work with collect documents up front. I will reorganize them after the fact, but generally they collect the documents all up front. They're all pretty much ready to go when, like, because of submission and to the lender and whatnot. So when I pick up the file at approval, it really is put the signing package together, work with the broker and the clients to sort of get it past the finish line. If anything crops up in the middle, you take care of that. Appraisals, lawyer introductions, so on and so forth. Compliance obviously is a big part of it as well.
Right. So you basically do the compliance, and then will you upload documents to lender portals and stuff?
Yep.
And then obviously will you reach out? So let's say smart brokers are trying to get as many documents up front, but you don't always get everything, or some things need to be updated. Do you reach out for those updates, or do they do it?
I do that. I try to do that.
So it's like, hey, your pay stub is out of date. We need a new one. You do that and collect that, so the broker can then go move on and find the next file.
That's exactly right.
Solve the next problem.
And essentially, it's what I'm trying to build here is being able to take like this chunk out of their business and do the work for them. So from point whatever it is, not A obviously, but like from point D to Z is all being done by me. So whatever is needed in between, and obviously they're still hands on. There's still a lot of client interactions for them as well, but the majority of that work I'm trying to get off of their plates after the approval comes through. So
right. And that's amazing. And so then you've got your first broker. How long did it take you to get? You got like five brokers now that you're working with, and depending on their volumes and stuff. What do you like? How long did that take to sort out?
Denise actually had my first introduction. She's been absolutely phenomenal in helping me get.
Yeah, she knows everybody that's connected.
It's incredible
because she'll be talking to one person saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm drowning." And then someone else was like, "Hey, I love helping drowning people."
The next thing you know, it's like, exactly. So, I had my first introduction before I was even back onboarded into Bricks, and this was back in November, and October, and I had about 5 months off due to a health issue. So I've really been doing this full time for about 2 months now.
Right. And how many files are you doing per month?
About 20.
Are you averaging?
20, 25
files a month.
In and around there, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. And so are you still doing any brokering at all?
Nope. No, actually, very recently, I hung up my submission agent hat, and I'm quite literally a full-time assistant now.
Right. And it's working out well.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of brokers worry about. And I'm not, knocking the people who do it part-time. This is a phenomenal way to earn a few bucks and definitely learn. I have learned so much about file management in the last 5 months that it just blew my mind. But, a lot of what I'm hearing is that people are worried about if people are doing it part-time and working on their own business, that, they get their business to a certain point, they're going to have to leave and work on
that would be
business.
a concern if somebody's using, because some brokers, and it's a path. There's many paths. There's multiple paths up the mountain of mortgage brokering.
Absolutely.
One of the paths is you work as somebody's admin, get your feet under you.
Yeah.
But usually for the broker, it's like, oh shoot, now I've got to replace you. It's a temporary assignment often. But in your case, if you're solely focused on just being a killer at fulfillment, you'll probably get into underwriting at some point if you choose. I mean, it could be,
I think so.
As you upscale. So what is the income potential of this compared to your previous career? Like, you don't have to give me specifics, but like, are you going to be making, like, is this going to work? Obviously,
my goal for my business as a mortgage assistant is $100,000 a year.
Right.
So, and
you can do that working from home.
Yep.
Work with some, and you don't have to find clients.
You
only have to find the client. Your client is the broker. Your client is not the mortgage, is not the borrower.
That's it. And because Bricks is so huge and growing, like from a broker base standpoint, it's incredible how many people are here and how many opportunities are available. I very much think that this is that's a relatively attainable goal. So I'm super excited about it.
That's amazing. And so what other things did you learn along the way about yourself or about that have been helpful for you to do what you do now? Because you went from something very different. You weren't behind a computer at all, were you? Before?
No, I was behind a steering wheel for
right.
For a good portion of my life. And after that conversation, I sort of, completely jumped ship. And but in the last 3 years, I've definitely learned a lot about myself, who I am, what I like to do, and I think the biggest thing about me is the dedication that I want to give to my family. And that's the best part about this job is that I am home every day.
I get before you were on the road, you were gone.
Absolutely. Yeah. 13, 14 hours a day. Yeah. And now I get to see my kids off to school every day. I get to see them when they come in the door. How was your day? My wife also works from home. So we're always having conversations throughout the day as well. So it's just it's a much more relaxed way to live your life, I think.
Yeah. I think it's amazing. I love it because it's a different story than we often tell, but it is an absolutely one that I think is worth sharing, and also getting people to go, just to give them the pot, because sometimes people just need to be given permission. They don't see it's a path. They think that's not a path, but you're going to make $100,000 being able to do this and stay home and it's really about finding your zone of genius. And I've talked to a lot of brokers lately, and it seems like that's a theme, maybe because I'm interested in it, but it's a theme that comes up. It's like, oh, you figured out your thing, and then you just double down on your thing instead of trying to do 10 things. That seems pretty smart.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And a lot of it, I've seen a lot of discussions on the Facebook page about niching down and finding, like you said, your thing. And I even tried that myself. Just for me, nothing seemed to work. And I think it was like a combination of my fear.
But when you're saying niching down on like borrower type or product type, but your niche, you did niche down. You just niched down into being like, hey, I actually like this.
Exactly.
It was a process part of it that you niched down on, which is fulfillment and kind of back office support.
Yep. Yeah. And that was really it. It was just, I discovered that I can't stand sales, which, like I said, is a huge part of this industry, but I can sit in front of a screen all day long with no issues at all. In fact, I love it. So,
right. You're not exactly. That's amazing. Yeah. Is there anything else I didn't ask you that I think people would find helpful or useful?
I think, one of the things you and I talked about at first, when you first reached out, was essentially letting the rest of brokerdom know that it's not failing to pivot. And
1,000% it's not.
This is kind of a really good example that I was almost out the door. I was almost ready to give up. And, a simple conversation with a friend of mine sort of opened another door, and that's just it, right? Like there's so many opportunities in this industry, and there's so many different avenues that you can explore. Just because you don't write mortgages anymore yourself, doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that you're trying something different or seeing what else works. And for me, it was the assistant side of it. And man, oh man, did it ever work.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. And yeah, like you said, there's tons of opportunity in this space for you, because it's, as people are growing their businesses, they're going to need help. And this is a good way for people to plug into a solution without having to go and necessarily hire their own person, because you're able to do more piecework. So
yeah, and a large part of the sales thing is these brokers who are succeeding as agents and brokers, they love the sales side of it. So that's all they want to do. They want to go out and sell. So, as an assistant,
and you free them up to do it.
Slide in and let them go do what they're good at.
Yeah, I love it, man. It's so good. Where can people find you online if they're looking for you?
Jason at themortgageassistant.ca is probably the best way. Email. When I did this, I kind of left my social media alone. I haven't really done a whole bunch with it.
You don't really need it, honestly, for what you're doing.
No.
Because what you need is a handful of good producers and just dial that process in, keep making it better.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love this.
And that's it. I've dedicated most of my time to hammering out my systems and figuring out what works, what doesn't work. And so that, I can plug into pretty much any any business and do the same job and make it work flawlessly.
Mm-hmm.
That's my goal.
Right. So. Amazing. Well, thanks, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for listening. And hopefully this conversation with Jason challenged your assumptions about what success looks like in the mortgage business. We talk, myself included, I'm guilty of this. We always talk about, oh, look at all the business you can do. You can do sales. And I didn't like sales. I learned sales. But there's people listening that you don't want to learn sales. You don't want to be in the sales position. And then I would say to you that think about some other paths that you can take, parallel paths in our industry, that you can do something you love and still be in this business. And what Jason's doing with fulfillment and with his business that he's spun up is amazing. So yeah, definitely reach out to him if you have questions. He's an open book, great dude. Also, I always tell people, if you're listening to this and you want to get an amazing email once a week from me called the 321 email, 3 things to check out, two awesome either content ideas or AI ideas, and then 1 tactic. Subscribe to my 321 email. You can do that by clicking on the show. You can do it by sending me an email, scott@mortgagebrokering.com. I'll add you to it. Or if you're on socials and find me, click on my link tree, and there's right there, join Scott's newsletter. Check it out. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.